Hello and welcome. Today we are looking at the IDEA7 drone from IDEA. This is a small GPS quadcopter that has very accurate GPS positioning, perhaps GLONASS, because it gets satellites indoors and very quickly. It also has a 720p tiltable Wi-Fi streaming camera. It has plenty of GPS features, waypoints, auto takeoff, auto land, and plenty of others. So let's take a closer look at this drone. Now the drone comes in this small, simple, square white box, and you can see the drone clearly there in the front. And it's from IDEA, and it's the IDEA7 for ages 14 plus. And it says down here, 6-axis gyro system quadcopter. And here on the side, you can see it's foldable, developed pattern. Right here at the top, it says IDEA, the brand or company. Here's a little bit on the transmitter. Has 1 key takeoff, 1 key return, so on and so forth, and it has a folding part so you can put the mobile device. And right here on the back, a little more information, some cautions, and it has apparently some other models there, like the there's a 720p altitude hold version of this, a 1080p altitude hold version, a version with optical flow, and a version that is either 1080p HD GPS or 720p HD GPS and Wi-Fi. So this one right here, I believe, is the 720p HD GPS Wi-Fi. So now, without further ado, let's open it up and take a look inside. So let's just lift up here. Okay. Take off this little cloth here. So right here we have the drone here. Very nice, and it's foldable. So you would just fold it out like this. Very easy to fold, very nice. And then right here is the transmitter, and it's also kind of foldable as well. Pretty cool. Put that right here. And then here's a little bag with the charger, spare propellers, spare parts, a screwdriver, so on and so forth. And then last but not least, there are the instruction manuals here, and that's that. And here is the manual for the app with the QR codes to download the app. So that's essentially it. Let's organize this and take one last look at the contents of the box. Now, taking a last look at the contents of the box, we have the drone itself. It's 7.4 volt, 900 milliamp LiPo battery, 4 spare propellers, 2 plastic spare caps for the lights, a screwdriver, a little bag with spare screws, the transmitter, the instruction manuals, and the charger for the drone's battery. So that's essentially the contents of the box. Now let's take a closer look at the drone. Now, taking a closer look at the drone, this is a cool looking drone that very much resembles the DJI Spark, only it's in orange, and it says GPS there at the top. And this is a foldable quadcopter, and it's very easy to fold. You can fold it starting with any direction, so you can fold either the front legs first or the back legs first. It really doesn't matter, but very easy to fold in and out. So that's pretty cool. and it says IDEA7 right there. And this is a brushed motor quadcopter that has folding propellers, so that's pretty cool. And right here is its on-off button, so if you just turn it on, you can see it's a pretty bright, well-lit quadcopter, so very good for orientation or flying in the early evening. And right here is its 720p folding camera right there, and there is a 1080p version of this, and it does tilt about 45 degrees, as you can see here. And right down here you will notice a little hole here, and it's empty on this model, but I believe there's an optical flow version of this quadcopter, so in that version there's probably the optical flow camera or sensor that goes here, but this does not have it, so it just has a hole there. But this model does have the 720p camera and the GPS. Taking a closer look at its battery here. Let's grab its battery. This does have a 7.4 volt 900 milliamp LiPo battery, and it does take about 90 minutes or so to charge, and it gives a quadcopter around a 10 or 11 minute flight time, so that's fairly good. Now it does charge through this micro USB port, but it's kind of interesting, not just any micro USB might work with this. The charge cable is actually set up in two parts like this, so you would actually get this charge cable here and then connect this portion here, and so here's how it works. And then you would plug this in and just charge it up like so. And the interesting part about this is that you can actually charge it pretty quickly if you just remove this adapter here. So in other words, the battery looks like this. You can actually use something like a 20 watt B3 max charger, and you can actually just plug it in like this and have this set up right here, and it charges the battery considerably faster. So this is a pretty neat adapter, but unfortunately it doesn't seem like you can use just any micro USB cable. It just appears that way, but you actually have to use this adapter with this kind of connection right here. And so you would either connect it like this and then just charge it, or use like a hobby grade charger, a B3 or something like that. But pretty cool setup there. Here's a final view of the quadcopter next to an actual DJI Spark. And as you can see, they're virtually identical in size and shape. Only that the IDEA7 is foldable, and as you can see, it has thicker propellers and thicker legs there, and it is orange, but for all intents and purposes it's virtually the same size and dimensions as the DJI Spark. So now let's take a closer look at the IDEA7's transmitter. Now, going over the transmitter, this is a compact, sleek, folding transmitter. So you can see the arms fold in and out like that, making it a very compact, sleek looking transmitter here. And you can fly this either way, but of course if you're going to fly with a mobile device for using Wi-Fi FPV, you obviously have to stretch these arms out to put your mobile device. But if you wanted to just fly it line of sight, you could fold them up and fly it this way as well. Now, going over the controls, here in the center is the on-off button. right here is your left throttle stick and right rudder stick. You have your auto takeoff button, auto land, your headless mode button right here, your return to home button right there. Basically 4 trim buttons right here, but I believe if you keep this one pressed, it'll do an emergency stop or shut off. Here is the rates button. So you have your high and low rates there, denoted by beeps. You have your photo button, your video button, and the surround button, which once in that mode, and once a radius has been applied with the sticks, the quadcopter will perform a orbit or surround and start flying in a circular pattern. So that's essentially it for the control. There's no external antennas here to note. And it does take 4 AAA batteries, like so, 4 AAA batteries. And the battery lid does require a screw here, but at the moment I don't have the screw in there. And that's essentially it. There is a peculiar little port right here. I'm not sure what that's for. It looks like you can put some sort of like power adapter to it. Perhaps if you have rechargeable batteries, this might be a way of charging that, but there wasn't any reference or any cable or anything that would connect to that. So that's kind of interesting there. And this transmitter does give the quadcopter around 100-meter control range. And that's about it. That's all the details of the transmitter. And now let's take a look at setting the quadcopter up for a first-time flight and looking at its app. Setting the drone up for its first flight is pretty straightforward. Once the battery has been fully charged and new batteries have been put into the transmitter, you would first start out by turning on the quadcopter right here at the top and keeping it pressed until the lights start flashing. At that point, you can turn on the transmitter right here in the center. And then you've got to bind the transmitter with the quadcopter, so you would put the left throttle stick up and down until you hear a couple of beeps. At that point, it should be bound. Next, you may want to calibrate the gyros, and to do that, you want to bring the left stick to the upper top corner and the right stick to the bottom corner, like so. And you should see some blinks that will indicate that the gyros have been calibrated. Next, you may want to calibrate the compass, GPS compass, and to do that, you put the left throttle stick to the lower left corner and the right rudder stick to the upper right corner, like so. At that point, you should see all the lights start to blink. Next, you want to rotate the quadcopter clockwise on its flat horizontal axis for about 3 turns until a couple of the lights go solid. And you should see them shortly. So notice how the rear lights are now solid while the red ones in the front are still blinking. That indicates that you now have to face the quadcopter upwards on its vertical axis and spin it for another 3 turns clockwise until the lights go solid. Notice how the lights are now solid. Now you would place the quadcopter on a flat surface and wait for GPS lock. Now you'll notice that the rear 2 did blink. That means it's going to search for satellites, only the rear 2 lights. But notice how it grabbed it very quickly. So now all the lights are solid. That means you're ready to take off, and you have home lock, and the return to home should be active. Next, we're going to go into the app and take a look at that. So once in your mobile device's Wi-Fi settings, you want to look for an entry called SK720P GPS, and it'll have a serial number there. Initially, there is no default Wi-Fi password, so you can just simply connect to that. And once you connect to that, you want to install and launch this app right here, which is SKGPS, and has that icon like that, SKGPS, in either the iOS or Android app stores. And then you would simply launch that, and you're greeted with this screen right here that says Seco, and then you can just start it, and right away you should have a live FPV feed with the quadcopter, as you can see here. Now it has a Wi-Fi FPV feed range of around 50 to 100 meters. So that's the range. Now briefly going over the app, it is very feature rich and has a lot of GPS features. So you have telemetry up at the top, altitude, distance, speed, number of satellites. You can use this icon here to return back to the main screen. You have telemetry there on your roll, pitch, and yaw, battery percentage, map view, signal strength. Right here we have several settings that you can control. Everything from joystick mode to gravity mode, speed. You can calibrate the gyros and the GPS compass. You have parameters here for the waypoints as to the maximum stay time of every waypoint, speed of waypoints, maximum height of homeward or return to home. Map settings, if you like to see a standard view or satellite view. So plenty of settings here. And then some camera settings here. Resolution, inverse the camera feed, flip the screen. So those kind of settings there. Here you have a map view. Here you have a VR view where you can split the screen for goggles. And here you can take video, you can take pictures. Here you can look at your photo album. Here you can access the special modes here, the waypoints. So here you can draw waypoints using the tools here, and so on and so forth, and then you can submit them. This is the follow me right here. This is the orbit mode, I believe, right here, or surround. Here we have the virtual controls. You can enable them and disable them with this button right here. You got your left throttle stick and right rudder stick. This is your return to home. This will lock and unlock the motors, allowing you to use the app to pilot the quadcopter. And this is your auto takeoff. So plenty of features here to use with the GPS. But overall, a fun, fast flyer. It would have been nice to have an onboard SD card slot to save the video footage, as all the video footage has to be streamed and saved onto the app, or at least with this particular model. But aside from that, it is a fun, smooth, fast flyer that is very accurate with GPS positioning. And so now let's take her up for a flight and see how she performs.